Frank was a monster who wanted to dance. I know I could boogie if they gave me a chance. Yes?
It's a rhyming book.
You're right, give me 5. She's right. This is why this book lends itself to music so well. It rhymes, and it's got a lot of rhythm to it. And when we do it, it's actually going to be a hip-hop song. So he put on his hat and his shoes made him friends, and opened a jar and put ants in his pants. He drove to the theater. Check out his cool car there. With the optional eyeball headlights. And jumped on stage. Then he danced like his shoe size instead of his age. Frank shook his shoulders and strutted his stuff. The audience screamed. They couldn't get enough. So does it sound like he's a pretty good dancer? No? It says the audience screamed. They couldn't get enough. It turns out he's a really, really good dancer.
I knew it.
But even really good musicians and dancers sometimes have a rough performance. This is where it gets a little bit gross. Frank did a cartwheel. Frank did a flip. Suddenly his head began to unzip. I told you, I warned you. All right, that was a little gross. This is where it's just crazy gross. Out flopped his brain, which plopped on the floor, which loosened his eyeball, which rolled out the door. Try to remember this picture because all of the music the 5th graders play is either based on the words or the pictures from this book. So remember that eyeball bouncing down the stairs because that's going to be in the song later. And after his arm fell out of his sleeve, the horrified audience started to leave. But Frank kept dancing. He said, "What the heck?" and laughed as his head fell off of his neck.
Oh my God.
He said to himself with a one-eyed glance, "I might be a monster, but man, can I dance." So he's not going to be discouraged. He's really proud of himself. Now, I should mention the author of this book is Keith Graves. That's kind of a cool name if you're going to write a book about Halloween. And Jean Hersey is the lady that taught me all of this music that I teach our 5th graders here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the 5th grade rappers. If you guys could come up to the microphone, please. All right, guys. Let's work really hard not to speed up. Please try to watch me. If you can count the texture layers, that's one layer so far.
Frank was a monster who wanted to dance. He said I could boogie if they give me a chance. So he put on his hat and his shoes made him friends, and opened a jar and put ants in his pants. I might be a monster,
But man, can I dance.